Okay, so I am a middle-aged woman. I have 4 children and went through a divorce a couple of years ago. And it was very freeing, and relief was the biggest word for it. And it was just good. And I saw it as good, and I went through it well and came out on top, and life has been wonderful since. And one of my biggest concerns going through it was, what am I going to attract? And that kind of threw me into studying the law of attraction and all of that, because I want good in my life. And learned a lot as I studied that about why I'd had what I had in my life before then. And so now here I am, a single woman, and dating, and I seem to attract fine. I'm attracting really great people. But there's one part of that attraction that I can't seem to figure out. And that is that every single thing seems to turn to sexual. Like every man that comes into my life there is such like strong attraction. And it doesn't go all the way to sex, but it's very high.
Why are you resisting that?
I'm not in every case. So that's the thing.
But what we're getting at is, what if at your highest connection, that's something that you really like?
Oh, I like it. And so maybe I need to let.
But you're not hearing what we're saying. What if when you're really tuned in to who you really are, and you're with another who's really tuned in, what if the impulse that comes from each of you, one of you, or both of you, what if that is something that is being encouraged by source energy? Doesn't that make the way you pointed this question a little off? It's like sometimes Esther would come out of meditation and she'd have a thought about something like moving furniture around. And her human side would think, well, if I'm going to meditate and I'm going to hook up with source energy, maybe I should want something more important like world peace than moving furniture around. And we're wanting to ask you all, why are you questioning the impulse that comes from source? And the only reason is because you haven't practiced your alignment with source enough to know when you're really aligned and when you're not. Because you spoke that like it was not necessarily a bad thing, but like it was a lesser thing than what you thought you were really looking for.
Because I want such deep connection. I want to be really connected to my next partner, and I don't even know that I need a partner that is long-term. Like, I'm not sold on that it's got to be one, and maybe that's why I'm attracting many. I don't know, but I do want to be connected intellectually and
but
sexually.
Our question back to you is, why are you arguing for a limitation that implies that you are not? What's this about? Why are you choosing to believe that that's not what's happening?
That's right. Yeah.
It's like when something comes really easily, most of you say, I better keep looking. Because you're not used to things coming to you easily. You're used to more struggle and suffering before something comes to you. Aren't you?
Yeah.
But you said, listen back to your own story to us. You said, I had this experience and it led to this, and it unfolded nicely, and it was relief. I could feel the releasing of resistance. I was more in tune with who I am. Life got better and better for me. These weren't your exact words, but this is what you meant from it. I am moving in the momentum of things that are good. And now I'm attracting some things that I want that is leading to some other things that I want. But I'm questioning that, Abraham. Why is it always only about that? And we say, it's not always only about that, but when it is, don't call it wrong. Don't call it wrong attraction. Because it's possible that when you hook up with source, those strong feelings that a big part of you is about come. And we're not saying that you're supposed to have 5 more children. That's not what we're talking about. We're saying that creation is creation. Does it really seem that off? That part of the procreating process might be part of that feeling?
Yeah.
So
I think that's answered that. So my other question kind of goes off of this after that. It has to do with intuition, but also trusting ourselves. Many people that I'm in touch with have that question. They say, and I've felt like I've been pretty good at it, is trusting myself. This has taught me.
Except for just this one topic.
Yeah. It's a big topic. But I've gotten to a place where typically I trust the thoughts that come. They come and I trust them and I just move with it.
This is what this conversation is really about today, or these days. And here's why. When you are awake, you are always in a receptive mode because your attention has you vibrationally active. And since you are vibrationally active, law of attraction is responding to the vibrational activity that you've got going on. That makes sense, doesn't it? You just can't turn that off. It's active and your point of attraction is always happening. So since your point of attraction is always happening, you've always got your receiver tuned to something. The question is, what's it tuned to? Well, most people, like those that you're talking about to some degree, are not paying too much attention to where the receiver is tuned, because almost everyone offers more of their vibrational output, which is what equals their vibration, what they get back. Almost everyone offers their vibrational output in response to what they are observing. And what they are observing is what's already manifested all the way out. We like to call that really old news. It's like gum that you've chewed all the flavor out of. But what you think is current reality is what most people are giving most of their attention to. And so they continue to perpetuate their point of attraction. So their receiving mode is mostly about what they are observing, even though there's a whole other world that they've created that they really prefer, that's over here in their vibrational reality where their inner being is. And so most people unknowingly are not a vibrational match to who they really are and what they really want. Instead, they are a vibrational match to what's already going on. It's more of a regurgitating of life than a deliberate creation of life. So as we interact with you and we explain the process to you, we want you to understand the existence of this vibrational reality, where you're headed, where you really want to head, where the things that you really want are. And we want you to be in vibrational alignment or resonance with your inner being. And so we write lots of books and we have endless conversations with those like you. And we talk about this creative process and we receive feedback from you verbally like this and vibrationally like this. And we continue to offer in as clear of terms as Esther can find things that help you to understand what deliberate creation is and how to create your own reality. But with all of the books that we write and all of the conversations like this that we speak and record and distribute, still, you don't really know until you have a life experience. In other words, these are just words. And even though they sound good, and Abraham really sounds like they know what they're talking about, and even though we get on rampages and we offer volume and we are determined to deliver it to you in a way that you have the best opportunity of receiving it, still, it's just words until life causes you to want something that you don't have, and you are willing to set aside enough time, 15 minutes a day is enough, to meditate and quiet your mind. And until you feel that detachment, which means you can't tell your nose from your foot because you are detached from this physical world enough that what's been going on actively in your mind isn't. So you're not drawn by what you've been looking at. You're not regurgitating because you're not in this moment of meditation focused on all of that. So now, as our friend said earlier, you are free for your vibration to rise. And now, maybe for the first time, not likely, but maybe for the first conscious time, you're detached and you are in the receptive mode. And then, coming out of that meditation, a thought occurs to you, and you're pretty sure you didn't think it because it's not associated with anything that you've been thinking about. And as that thought occurs to you, it has enough momentum. You can feel the resonance of it, and you feel inclined toward it. You feel inspired toward it. You feel interested in it, maybe even excited about moving your furniture around, even though that's not what you were thinking about. And so now you feel that enthusiasm for that. You then might know that this was a thought that came from this receptive mode. And then if you follow through on what that impulse or inclination was, and then you get to witness the unfolding of it, and you watch it in the state of becoming more and more and more until it fully manifests. Now you know the difference between receiving from who you really are, from the source within you, and just picking up on the spin-off of man's conscious thought. Then you know. And that's the only way you know. We can't say it in enough perfect ways for you to know it. You have to show it to yourself. You have to know what it feels like to have a negative thought that's rampant, that keeps bringing more stuff you don't want to you. And you have to know what it feels like to meditate and quiet your mind and really detach. You have to know what that feels like so that you can accomplish it more and more and more, day after day after day. And then you have to know what that peaceful feeling of detachment really is, what that feeling of no resistance in your being feels like. You feel like you're floating, you feel free, you feel clarity. And then you have to recognize a thought that comes that you follow through with, and you then know, and only then do you know the difference between. And unless you're doing that, then you're just sort of guessing. And what you're usually doing is pleasing this one, then pleasing this one, then going this way, and then going this way, until you find that resonance. There is such a huge difference. We can't even believe that anybody is asking the question, although we know why you're asking the question, and we understand, and even Esther does sometimes. When alignment is so much more. Clarity is such a different feeling than confusion. It just is. And when you know something, when you feel it with clarity, because your inner being knows what's in your vortex and knows where you are and knows what you want and knows where you are, and you find resonance and clarity and alignment with that knowing is so different than confusion or should I or shouldn't I. If you find yourself talking to a lot of people, well, what do you think about this? Well, what do you think about this? Well, do you think I should do this? Or do you think I should do that? You're nowhere near this, because if you were near this, you'd be saying to them, I got this. And they might be wanting to put their 2 cents worth in, usually trying to discourage you because they don't got it and they don't have it for themselves and they don't have it for you either. And so they really don't know what they're doing. And so their contribution to you only confuses you. Jerry wrote a paper once called Keep Your Ideas to Yourself Until They Are Fully Developed. And the reason for that is you want to get your momentum with your source going before you bring anybody else into the equation, you see. But most people, in their insecurity, in their lack of connection to what is secure, then they don't know. And if you're in a place where it could be this and 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 what about this and what about that, you're not in alignment, because when you're in alignment, you know. When you're in alignment, there's not confusion about it. Life just keeps showing you how you're doing. So how you doing? How you doing? In other words, don't you know how you're doing? How you're doing is how you're doing. Isn't it pretty obvious what you're doing vibrationally? And isn't it pretty obvious what you might want to think a little less about and what you might want to think a little more about? This is not confusion. This is not a mystery. This is not the iffy world that you believe that you live in. This is not a random world. This is not a world of chance. This is not a world of assertion or arbitration. This is not a world where other people can do things to you or take things from you. This is a world of attraction, period. Attraction, 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 attraction. And so the thrill of knowing what you're doing attraction-wise is the feeling of anticipation and being in on it, your hands in the clay. How thrilling it is to have an experience where something doesn't go the way you want it to, and you know that you've launched an equivalent desire. How thrilling is that? And then to get to watch the universe deliver to you the outcome that you now prefer, because you know that you have found more resonance with the solution than you are finding with the problem, you see. So you just got to play with this. That's why we talk about step 1, step 2, step 3. Step 4 is you're really getting good at this, knowing you're in the receiving mode. Once you start meditating every day, within about a month, you'll be in step 4. You'll know. You'll be able to know, for the most part, what you are in resonance with. And if you don't know, don't worry about it. Life will show you what you're really in resonance with, and then you can make another decision, or meditate more, or pre-pave more. It is so much simpler than we all make it out to be.